but yeah, continuing that one, it is interesting that they'd switch that over and go larger. But what they were saying is that in Afghanistan and the Middle Eastern wars, most of the engagements were long range. So that's why they're going to that bigger
Oh, it won't reach
caliber.
as far, huh?
Yeah. And anybody tuning in, we're talking about the Army here, and they're
I guess that
changing
caliber that caliber is closer to a 6.5 Creedmoor or Grendel, isn't it?
Yes, that's what they're going after for that long range capability. Yeah.
Also,
I thought the Creedmoor was much bigger. No.
Than a 308.
Yeah, I thought it was a big thing.
I don't know that it's
40
that
cal,
much
50
bigger.
cal, or something. Yeah.
I don't think it's that much different. I don't know. I've got a 6.5 Grendel. I've only shot it 3 times. It's because the ammos was super easy to get versus 223, and of course, like how everything's going, it's all difficult to get.
Agreed.
It's an interesting conversation to have before we talk about Google.
Yeah,
we're just talking about big analytics guns. You know, moving the big guns with GA4. You know?
Right.
Increasing your caliber.
Yeah. So George, you're going to have all 3 kids in college.
Yes, and I still have one in high school. Yes, so my oldest is going to University of Dayton Law School in the fall, and then a daughter studying pharmacy, and then my son Henry, who a lot of people met at NADA or Digital Dealer Spring, I think, finishing up his business degree, and he's doing a digital internship in Cincinnati here. So
nice,
getting some good diverse experience.
So on this show, would you like to share your Patreon account details? And we'll just say like, subscribe, and donate to George, who's about to have 3 kids in college.
I've been it's not been popular with my wife, but I've been an obsessive saver since they've been born. So we tried our best to prepare for it, and so now she's happy.
Good for you.
It's not so tight, but it's a good old 529 plan.
Yep. If you're gonna have kids, jump on one of those early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she drove old beat up minivans for a lot of years and complained.
George, you're going to get cut off in 3 seconds here.
All right, sounds good.
All right, here he is.
Friday.
And you can't admit to driving minivans on a show with a bunch of car people watching.
Was it at least a
Everybody's
nice
got those days. Yeah.
Toyota Sienna.
It was a certified Honda Odyssey. 2 in a row.
All right. There you go.
That was good.
Yeah.
I saw the cover
My
of
wife swore up
Automotive
and
News
down.
yesterday. Those Odysseys would be worth a lot of money. I should have saved them.
I think everything's worth a lot of money right now.
My parents had purchased, do you remember the old Toyota Previa? Looked like a bug. It was really aerodynamic, spaceship looking thing. They had bought one of those used with low mileage. They had it for, 15 years and turned around and ended up selling it. Dude, they sold that for stupid money. Those things were just going for dumb money at the time. Such a awkward car, but a great minivan if you're into minivans. My wife swore up and down she'll never drive a minivan, so it's always been an SUV.
I've never had my wife says the same, and I've never argued that with her.
Yeah, me either.
No minivan.
However, if you have a teen, it is the cheapest vehicle to insure.
Oh, really?
Yep. Cheapest vehicle to insure is a minivan for a teenager.
Do the insurance companies know what teenagers do?
I don't know. I don't want either of my kids driving in a huge, large minivan.
So they never saw Scooby-Doo, huh? Never got the hit. Okay. Well,
George, it's always a pleasure having you.
Good to be here. I'm usually on the other side of the screen, tuned in.
Yes, you are. What's going on? I keep jumping on Facebook, and you keep posting something about GA4, Google Analytics 4. I was doing a little bit of research, and I knew it was coming, just wasn't sure when it was coming. Uh,
Yeah,
Google
industry, I
Analytics
think, got caught.
only seems like a big mess to me. I worked towards my certification many years ago, but unfortunately, I didn't keep up with it. I took your online course, which you were graciously to share with me. That taught me and got me back into the groove. But of course, now we're in GA4. So, what is this GA4 all about?
Yeah, I think it kind of caught a lot of people, me included, off guard when they announced the date. It was back in March when they announced that July date, to be able to say, like, you wouldn't get any more data, and you couldn't be able to you couldn't easily move your old data into the new GA4. It just was like a call to arms for everybody to go get busy working on it. But GA4 is the renamed Google Analytics for website and apps. I think they called it for a while. They've been working on it for a number of years, and it is promised to. It's not only the next version of Google Analytics 4, but I think it's a nearly clean sheet of paper, in that a lot of the menuing and a lot of the approach is completely different. It is designed to solve the cross-device challenge, where the dealer website would know that I own this phone and I'm also on this laptop, and I visit the website and I'm the same user. The shopping
That's
journey,
huge.
supposedly gets a better view into that, but so far, just not enough. I don't have enough data length to be able to see that, but anxious to start collecting more data.
How many dealerships do you have set up on it yet so far?
150 or so.
Oh, really?
Just right around that number. Yeah. So almost all of our customers are all set up. Just there's a few that are just glitching out with website providers. It's something you want to pay attention to, because we've had everything from they go to install the GA4 and they accidentally turn off the old Google Analytics. They turn on the GA4 and it runs for a few weeks and mysteriously turns itself off, and then they have to reestablish it. Or they just can't get it running and they can't explain why. And so we just have to press on the website provider to have them figure it out. And because I think it's a little bit challenging to run both at the same time. Like some of the big platforms, Wix websites is what we run our company website on, and it's one or the other. So you can't run parallel. So running parallel, I think, gives you just added assurance.
Gotcha.
Interesting. Huh. We're running both right now, but we're on AWS with ours. So
you're running it for app?
Yeah.
You have app and website, right?
Well, I'm just talking about our company site, but
okay.
But yeah, apps. Yeah, we haven't put GA4 into the app yet. But yeah, on
so
our,
you can
on our
do
own
that
website. But it's been a
just
pain.
Need a different data stream.
And one of the things I've been trying, it's like when the cheese gets moved and you're trying to keep historical reports and you're trying to compare what was on the old system and to what's new and whatnot, it messes up. So we'll probably go January 1st next year full on. Get
Makes
a fresh
sense.
start on all of our historical or reporting for the year.
You mentioned Who Moved My Cheese, and I read that book back in 98, 99. My sales manager at the time, working at a Volkswagen dealership, had handed everybody a copy of it. And it probably sat on my desk for about 6 months before I read it. Then I finally read it. And, it's a great, simple little book. But I definitely say, as I get older, I hate my cheese being moved. When I was younger, bring it on. That was fun and exciting. Now it's just like, oh God, not another change. That's how I'm feeling about this new GA4. I'm like, so you mentioned something about if you're running the old version and you come over to the new, don't turn off the old version, or because you could
Yeah.
lose out if there's some. So they actually are running, I guess that's why you said they're running in parallel. It's not so much an upgrade, it's a full, all new system. Keep your old GA up and running, at least for as long as it makes sense. And then, use your GA4. But that way, if something happens in GA4, you can still reference back to the original. Okay.
Yes, I would run it until it stops collecting data. Supposedly July 1st. What if they change that date? Then you'd have a couple more months to still use the old system. You're hedging, and so you got a year's worth of historical data. Colleen Harris, who is super smart and I respect, she is with Synchro, and she did a webinar on Wednesday, and it was really well done. Did a GA4 webinar on Wednesday, and her suggestion was to take the data and export it out of Google Analytics Universal into Google Sheets, and then you could either leave it there, just refer to it, or you could perhaps import that into the new. Or you could import it into Data Studio. If your reporting lives in Data Studio, which ours does, you could take the historical, load it in through Data Studio. So we'll try that. We'll play with that and see if we, because I would like to be able to see, hey, is our organic search growing compared to 5 years ago? That'd be an important data point to be able to go back and get. If you're paying for SEO and you've got all these landing pages, I mean, you really would love to have that historical continuity of these content pages continuing to grow. So,
with SEO, I mean, if you're really deep into SEO, should you take action with GA4 right away? And what are are there any type of vantage points?
No, I think every dealer should absolutely get their code out there today, right away. It's just such an easy exercise to go through. I've got a guide that I put up on LinkedIn. People can download the guide. You just go through that steps and send it to your website provider, and you can have it done this afternoon. But I'm sorry. So what was the question?
Just around SEO. What's the advantages?
Yeah, they're going to install GA4 on every single page of the website. So SEO has an advantage, but digital agencies have an advantage. I mean, I think no one really has a unique, kind of advantage around it. I would say though, if you're advanced and you use Google Tag Manager, start thinking through that. And really the biggest thing that I think we're waiting on, and I may be inaccurate with all the providers, but the chat companies, the digital retail companies, the website companies need to roll out their Google Analytics 4 flavored events, because all the events are different and unique. And what that means is there's a provision in Google Analytics 4 that will take all the old universal events and convert them, but it doesn't work because all the website companies have their own JavaScript library. And so because of that, they will have to, Google Analytics 4 flavored events will have to be created and put into Tag Manager, and then have those start firing into GA4. And then it's just really easy to convert those to conversions. So that's the old goals. So goals is now called conversions. Well, naming change, but and then you're rock and rolling.
So if you've got a trade-in evaluation tool that's using Google Analytics, the original, but you've migrated to GA4, is there a conflict there? Or you just need to get that new code over to, and hopefully, I would think that vendor shouldn't have any issues, accepting that new GA4 code, correct?
I wouldn't think so. The only one I've seen so far is Remora. They rolled out a couple weeks ago click to call and lead form events for that. And we don't have tons of Remora accounts, but that good for them, right? I mean, everybody needs to get busy doing that, at least from my selfish perspective, so that we can start. Because until they do that, we won't have any conversion data. You can get your nets out in the water and start collecting sessions and users, but you won't have any conversions until they get that work done. And so another piece of advice, and I think I added it to this conversion document, is go ahead and set up thank you page goals today, because you can, and you don't have to wait on a vendor to do that. Now, thank you page goals are not the most advanced goal in the world, but at least we've got something. At least we've got a conversion set up that's within our four walls. We can control that. And it's beyond the scope of today's, but what's that? It's a lead, yeah.
I said, that's typically the lead, so that's probably the most important conversion. One of.
Yep, agreed.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a comment that came in from Ryan Everson that caught my
Saw that.
attention. I'll throw this back up here for a minute. Interesting that Facebook, by decree of the Department of Justice, has to eliminate special ad audiences for car dealer Facebook ads.
Why?
That's news to me.
Yeah.
They've been busy in Washington.
Yeah, it's been a big day over there. Huh? the legal.
I haven't even caught the news yet today. I'm afraid. I'm afraid.
Well, you had two
why would they
Supreme
do that?
Court things that came down to, Jeff. I know you're aware.
Yeah, I
of
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
we
not
should.
looking at the chat, but I would say lookalikes don't really perform like they maybe used to, or I think there's just better options anyway. I mean, it stinks that they would do that, but I think there's better options for than lookalikes, but makes no sense.
You know, I can't remember when it was. I think it was definitely after COVID, but I watched a significant decrease in lookalike audiences for frickin' tech specifically, not for car dealers, but we were utilizing that ad category or doing it quite often. We take our, list of CRM contacts and upload it, create a lookalike audience. And all of a sudden we started getting, instead of getting more leads from car dealers, we were starting to get all of these, why am I seeing this ad? I'm not in the car business, and all this kind of stuff, kind of comments on it, and just hate. Something changed there. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was definitely in 2020. I just don't remember if it was like summertime or fall of 2020 when it changed.
Wasn't fall? Is that when device IDs came off? That Ryan will know. I think didn't device IDs fall off Apple devices in October, November? Can't remember that date of last year.
I remember hearing something about that.
Well, that may be the last case, year was maybe? 21. Yeah, I'm talking about 2020.
Oh, 2020. Okay.
Yeah.
Ryan, if you're listening still, I'm sure you are, we should probably get a thread started over in Dealer Refresh around that topic. Maybe dive in to a few things and see how that progresses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was not aware of that. Sneaky.
Yeah. So
one question, the Google Data Studios, can you still use that with the new GA4?
Yes, you just add another data source and it just flows right in. We may experiment with some, trying to combine some of that data on some of the reports, but yeah, just it flows in. But it's interesting. The default channels not all change, but some of them change. So like the other channel becomes unidentified. Social is now broken out between organic social and paid social. So there's there'll be like a new UTM tagging guide that'll be out there that we'll create. I'm sure other people will create as well. That'll give guidance on how to do it for GA4 with your UTM tagging.
Okay.
Not a ton different though.
A lot of your website providers, they've got their own universal analytics accounts. I guess a lot of them probably tie into GA and then just display it different, aggregate some of the different, stuff coming from the websites. So then they've basically got their own reporting. I forget what the crap I was going to ask, but
about the views.
Yeah. Well, how many of the providers out there, or is there any conflict? Because if you're using the website providers overall Google Analytics to their dashboard, how quick are how quick are they moving over to this GA4? Are you seeing they're lacking in this, or if any of them, went ahead and jumped on this? Is there going to be any conflict there?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's probably using it today for live reporting other than dabbling. And maybe like Alex was saying, maybe January or late this year, start really trying to start using it for real. But they, I think I was caught flat-footed in March. Website companies were as well, plug-in companies, and so I think everybody's scrambling around to get it done. But we got almost everybody converted in June, and Dealer Inspired, Dealer On, Dealer.com all stepped up and got, literally within an hour of the request. So we got it all done in like, I felt like a 2 or 3 day period, rapid fire with their help. And then, it's just a matter of getting the rest of the data in there. So what I thought you were going to allude to was views. So in the current Google Analytics, you have these things called views, and you can have 100 views for every website. And so it was really common for a digital agency to come in, and like your paid search agency would say, hey, look, we want to build our own view in Google Analytics, and that's no big deal for the dealer. In fact, they should embrace that, because that means they won't be messing with your goals and your filters.
Mm-hmm.
And so they build that out. So that goes away in GA4. There's people speculating maybe they'll add it, but there's one kind of look that everybody shares. And so you do get 30 goals. They're called conversions now. So you get 10 more than the 20 you used to be limited to. So hopefully that
that's
works
good
for everyone.
Yeah, that's good.
You got me thinking about how, at dealer.com, we had a master account where we could look at all 14,000 websites bundled up into one, and then there were breakdowns by different things. And how much fun it'll be to rebuild that whole thing in GA.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff was talking about cheese being moved. Yeah, we heard Jeff, we were like, we cried for the first 2 days. We were like, here's this enormous body of work that no one's getting paid for, and we're going to convert all over, and it's completely expected. And so, it's it'll consume. It's already consumed a lot, but it'll consume a lot of time.
How much moves over, George? So if you got events and tags in vanilla GA, I guess that's what we can call it now, GA3. When you do the
do you have to redo them?
Well, I mean, the tag manager stuff, the events will have to be redone, and I don't think that that's a huge process, but they need to. I mean, I'm waiting for the website companies and the third parties to announce and say, hey, they're out there. If you're in the conversion process, then we can get your data to flow in there. But I mean, a lot of the when we started flowing the data into GA4 and into Data Studio, I mean, it looks the same. The organic search sessions match exactly what the universal. So the data for the most part ties out well. You've got a few new channels. You got like organic video, and I mean, there's a bunch of new richness in channels. But overall, I would say that the more time I spend, that the more I like it, and the more it feels like home versus universal. And I say this, when I'm doing training for dealers on Google Analytics is, if you move to a new neighborhood in a new part of town or whatever it is, and it's one of these big McMansion neighborhoods, and you take 10 turns to get down to your little house, you probably have to use Waze the first time to get home, but after 2 weeks, you know where to, you don't even look at the street names, right? You know your way home. And it's the same way with software, right? You just have to commit to yourself that you're going to get in there, 2 hours every week, for 2 months. And then by the end of that period, you'll be surprised how much you know and how familiar you are with it. But the reporting is much more, there's no drag and drop, I don't think, in maybe a little bit in Universal, but the reporting is drag and drop. There's library functions where you can build reports and share them out with people. Bounce rate goes away, average session duration goes away, time on site goes away, or pages per session go away. Those are all replaced by one metric called engaged sessions. Kind of simplifies life, right? So honestly,
is that good or bad?
I think it's good. Pages per session, session duration, and bounce rate all move together anyway, right? When bounce rate goes up, those two other metrics go down. They're interesting. And there still is an average page per sessions. There's still a page metric you can get, but for the most part, your world's going to be how many users, how many sessions, how many engaged sessions. So meaning people that, and I don't know how much we can define that. I'm still light on that topic, but I think engaged session is a certain time on site and a certain number of pages. But maybe that's something we can customize to say, let's include page scrolling, let's include photo carousel. So if we can define that engagement, that'd be even more useful, I think, for automotive. And then conversions, which were just like goals in the past. So that part of it is just much simpler. As I go through all the reporting, way less menus, less busyness. Just it's clearer and easier to use.
There's a question from the audience here. Morgan Dickinson's asking, about ways to work in the group site. So looks like completed your course, yay, and trying to set some things up, but it's struggling to find a replacement in GA4. Let me throw that back up there again.
So I don't know what content groups are, but it sounds like they're grouping their analytics for rolled up reporting. And so if that's the question, I think I've heard some really smart people say that they feel like GA4 is going to be easier for that, and they intend on using the same measurement ID. There's this thing called a measurement ID. It starts with a G. That's the old UA number. So in the Universal, the Social Security number for Google Analytics Universal is a UA number. UA followed by this alphanumeric. In GA4, that's called a measurement ID. Strange name for it, but and it starts with a G dash. So they're using the same G dash for all the dealers' websites in that group, bringing all the data into Data Studio or into GA4, and then parsing it out through filtering. So it's an interesting.
Okay.
That way they can roll up, depending on their filtering, they can have rolled up reporting, or they can have distributed reporting and group it. If they had 3 stores in Chicago and 2 stores in Detroit, they could just do rolled up, based on the location, using filters.
Do you still run into a lot of dealerships that still manage a separate blog?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of them probably do it just to try to get SEO value. Try
Correct.
to, just build landing pages that will score nationally on SEO, and that still works. It just doesn't, I know this thing's off topic. It doesn't get that domain relevance that's always promised, right? The promise was in the past that if I drive all this traffic to these blog pages and uncontrolled, it typically is California, Texas, Florida, the big car market states, drives all that traffic. But we've seen dealers do that for 2 and 3 years in a row, driving gigantic amounts of out of market traffic, and their in market just never changes. So I don't know the domain relevance is a real thing in practice. It may be, I just never see it in the data, and when we look hard for it.
No, that's why. I mean, back in the day when we signed up with Dealer One, that was one of the big reasons, was because they would work with WordPress and go ahead and set up a subdomain. I believe it was subdomain, might be an extension with a WordPress blog. And back in the day, I could utilize that to get incremental traffic. And then if you had the right call to actions and you had it designed right, you could get those customers to leak over into your SRPs. That is way more difficult to achieve now. The other part of that, which ties into this, was I had set up separate analytics, one for the blog and one for the dealership website, because I didn't want, because just like you said, you'll get with that blog, you're going to get consumers from all over the place. It's less targeted. So I didn't want that affecting my Google Analytics on the dealership website side. Does the new GA4, does that fix that issue? Do you still have to have 2, or is there something internal there where you can split it out? And does that even make sense to do anymore?
I mean, if you didn't want to see the blog traffic in your main traffic, you could just filter it out. You could filter it, out of a certain reporting view. So the reporting capabilities in GA4 are so much more robust than Universal. It makes you wonder sometimes when you're using them, you're like, do you really need Data Studio? And the answer is yes. It's still a better visualization tool, but your ability to have like a custom report for saying, non-blog website organic traffic, and then save that in your report library, would be what you do.
Gotcha. Excellent.
But there's other applications. I mean, I think the blog, there's probably better local applications to really try to drive local traffic for people, looking for things and solutions, or even offsite blogs that are just trying to generate more relevance around dealer terms, for the dealer.
What else are you seeing? What else have they changed to just make it easier and where it makes more sense? I'm stumbling over my words today, I think.
Yeah, so it's every almost every reporting tab has an overview, and that's the way Google did it initially. But the overview tabs are way more interesting now. So if you go into a certain report, it'll have an overview with all these little cards. So it's got this card system, and those cards are nice because you can drill down on any one of those cards, and now you go into that reporting area. You can customize the cards, and so you can really you can navigate way faster. It also has like recently reviewed reports that you've seen, and so if you're using the tool all the time, and you leave it on a Friday and come in on Monday, it knows all the last reports you saw on Friday for that dealer, and you can click those and go into them. So productivity wise, it just seems like it's easier to move in that way. There's an exploration tool where you just completely build your own report from scratch. That's a little it just takes some getting used to, and I've not been able to completely replicate all of our reports. One of my favorite reports, and maybe this will be a challenge if Ryan's listening, is in Google Analytics doing a custom report around Google paid search keywords with a secondary dimension for search query. And that to me is like the perfect paid search analysis tool, because you can search ascending by session duration and find your worst performing keywords, sort by cost per click up and down just to see how well they're managing cost per click for branded or non-branded. And so far, I've not been able to get a combined search query and keyword report out of GA4. And I've tried every reporting piece they have. So that's the only current limitation that I've seen. I'm sure there's a way to drive that out. But as you get into it, if you go in the exploration section and just spend some time, and after a while, it becomes pretty intuitive.
As you've gotten into this over the years and diving into the analytics, what are some, and maybe you could relate this back to some of your custom reports, but what are some of the results within the reports, or again, your custom reports, that you've actually been able to use to help move the needle at the dealership? And whether that's, the dealership website conversion or goals, or just getting the customer into the dealership, what special reports do you put together, or what type of data? What have you been able to put together to make actionable data?
Yeah, so all of our reports really take the same approach. And one, you set up conversion, you set up goals for true conversions, right? So your lead forms, your calls, your chats, digital retail leads, you set that up, and then you UTM tag all your traffic properly. So every single campaign is UTM tagged, and not only campaign, but every flavor, every recipe. I like to refer to it as, I've got that unique recipe all UTM tagged, and then I sit back and just watch the traffic flow through for the month. And I reward traffic that converts. Of course, everybody would. I also reward traffic that shows good shopping behavior, because at best, 95% of the people will leave and not convert. So you have to be able to define shopping behavior. And then do they return? Do they tend to return in subsequent visits? Do they tend to convert in subsequent visits through other channels? So all those pieces. And so paid Facebook campaigns would be the perfect example for how we use that type of measurement. But it's to measure success and to make decisions at the end of the month to say, stop doing that, double down on that, etc. Okay. So I like to use the example of recipes. So if we were trying to find the number one, spare rib rub recipe, and we had 5 recipes, and we took 5, racks of ribs, and we made each one of them, and we got the rub on there, and we smoked them for 6 or 8 hours and pulled them out and tried them. And then we decided, hey, this one right here, this is by far the best one. But we screwed up. We forgot to mark the ribs as to what recipe was what rib, right? That's a bummer, isn't it? Well, that's what UTM tagging is, right? That's UTM tagging. So all those different recipes, we tell dealers, put 10 bets on the table every month, knowing that 2 or 3 of those bets may not work, fail fast, and then, reward the ones that are doing well, stop the ones that aren't. But if you're not experimenting in digital marketing, and you're not failing, then you're not trying enough things, right? So this happens all the time, where, the best agencies will run, prospecting and retargeting campaigns, let's say for Facebook, for new and used make model carousel ads. And the prospecting, they might run 5 flavors, different content, different ad copy, same landing page, just tweaking some different things. And the results are always different. And so you'll see those 2 weeks into the campaigns. Wow, this video campaign's outperforming the others by a huge margin. Shift the budget. Let's move the budget toward that better performing campaign, either this month or next month. And then so every month in theory, all your campaigns should get better, right? Because we're trying different things. We're split testing. We reward things that work. We penalize and punt on things that don't. And so that's why you use an analytics, product in general, I think, is just to be able to say, how many recipes do I got flowing through here and what's working and what's not. So
you mentioned
how many
shopping
people are getting
behavior.
ribs this weekend now?
Yeah. You mentioned shopping behavior. Can you define what's your definition when you're setting up the goals or conversion? How do you define shopping behavior?
Right. So we start at organic search. So, a lot of dealers will say, hey, George, you got all these benchmarks. What's my benchmark for time on site? What's my benchmark session?
What did he do?
So I should start with, can you guys still hear me? My video.
Yeah, you cut out quite a bit. Start over.
Okay. Where did I cut off?
It was as you were moving your arm across the computer.
Oh, you're talking about benchmarks.
Right. So if dealers want to find out what their benchmarks for time on site, pages per session, conversion rate, some of those things, start with Google organic search, right? That's the gold standard of traffic for all dealers. And even though the paid agencies that would be listening would say, hey, George, that's not fair. You can't compare paid search to organic search. And I would agree, but at least you know how good traffic can get, right? The people that know our brand, the people that search for our brand or our category and land and click and shop, that's how good it can get. And some traffic does rival organic search. Third-party classified referral traffic from AutoTrader, Cars.com, CarGurus, that looks darn near as good as organic search. OEM referral traffic from RamTrucks.com, Ford.com, that looks almost like organic search. So that's a good place to sort of start and benchmark. And then, the answer to the question in terms of how to measure engagement quality depends on channel. So Facebook traffic, either directly from Facebook or some of the resold Facebook products like Car Social or Edmunds Facebook retargeting, those will have less time on site and less session duration and a lower conversion rate. So our goals for that are a page and a half pages per session and 1 minute time on site, or maybe a minute and a half. And then we look for conversion rates of 0.75. And that math is our true conversions, our forms, our chats, our click to calls, all those digital retail leads divided into sessions. And so that's a totally different goal than we have for paid search, a different goal than we would have for other campaigns. So, I think each one, depending on high funnel, low funnel, mid funnel, you'd have different benchmarks. But I think organic search is a good place to start.
As you were talking about that, a little snide thought stuck in my head of measuring the people who buy or click on the dealership's name in paid search. It's still blown away by how many dealers I look up and how many are still buying their name.
See, we're proponents of that at the right price. And what I mean, so if you'd asked me 4 or 5 years ago, I might have said, look, either spend zero or spend a few $100s, but don't overspend on your name because Google takes care of that. You show up number one, those sort of things. But when your dealer name is a surname, like a proper name, like Nenni Chevrolet, it's not a geographic term. A good agency can get your cost per click, below 10 cents. In a non-populated area, maybe below 5 cents or 2 cents, right? So if I said to a dealer, hey, look, we cannot buy your name at all, that's fine. But how would you like to have like nearly 100% impression share show up, for every search in your market, not worry about it, for $50 a month? Yeah, that's and why not, right? That means I dominate. That means not only my Google Business Profile, my paid search ad, and you don't necessarily have to do that, but from a branding perspective, how reinforcing is that? And now if it's $1.50 a click, no thanks. That just means the agency is not paying attention to your quality score for your brand, or doing something else to make that so expensive.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've always been against buying a dealership name, but I guess if you can get it for a few pennies and you want to be able to cover that first page, it's a toss up. But I get where you're coming from for sure.
No, definitely buy the when you're trying to appear in your Henderson Chevrolet, for example. It's the
I was gonna say, what about geo dealerships such as Hagerstown, Mercedes-Benz?
Yeah. Those you have to, and you're probably buying it as part of your
unless you're the only Mercedes-Benz store in 100
Yeah, I
miles
don't.
or so.
Yeah.
There's two new Google products that the dealer should pay attention to. They may be getting conquested on now. One is local ads, right? So in almost every major metro, if you search for Jeep brake repair near me or brake repair near me, in Google Maps, you'll see 2 ads. In Google Search, you'll see 1 ad on the maps. And so that's pretty compelling, right? We work so hard to grow our reviews on Google or get our star rating, rank really high for all these non-branded terms, and then someone buys that ad slot, right? So make sure you're not being conquested there. Those you can generally get for 60, 80 cents a click with a good agency on the Google local ads. And they combine your Google business profiles. If you have service, parts, body shop, and sales, they actually do like a combined campaign depending on what the person's searching for. They serve up the right profile. And then VLA ads, everybody's talked a lot about those. Those work for some, horrible for others, but worth knowing if you're getting conquested on them.
What's a VLA ad?
That's they also call them vehicle ads, but that's those postage stamp type make model ads that you see in most searches for one that I can find 2016 Chevy Silverado, Columbus, Ohio, or anything in Seattle. I think Carvana is currently
Usually
waging
dominates
war. Oh my gosh, yeah. They
Yep.
got to be spending so much money.
Yeah.
Vroom too. It's Carvana and Vroom up there.
Sure
most
is.
of the time.
And those are the most compelling to me, from an ad design perspective, because if you listen to my stuff, like I always say, spend 0 on paid search for used cars as far as text ads, right? Those are always, for any dealer, it's always the lowest performing campaign. And the reason is it's not the agency's fault. It's just the wrong tool for the job. It's too hard to match the intent of the searcher with the content. So if I'm looking for a red Jeep Wrangler Unlimited, and I search for a used red Jeep Wrangler Unlimited, and I see a text ad and I click on it, and the dealer has 2 white ones, I throw up and I leave, and the dealer's quality score goes down for that search, and they increasingly pay more for it. It's just extremely inefficient. The VLA ad, but the same, it has a thumbnail, right? So now I get color, trim, wheels, maybe. I mean, I can see a lot of it. So I won't make a color mismatch click. I get price, mileage, trim. It's just almost everything. It's an SRP. So now that all being said, I thought they would perform much better than they do. The traffic looks a little bit better than paid Facebook traffic, but it seems to get better over time. And for rural dealers, conversion rates approaching 2%, and cost per conversion maybe $80 or less, which for a Google search product that'd be a bargain.
Yeah,
or
not
reasonable,
too bad, I guess.
maybe not a bargain.
Are you still a proponent of switching, or not switching, but separating your Google business pages between sales, service, and parts?
Yes, yeah, you definitely have to.
Okay.
If you don't and your competitor does, they'll show up and you won't.
Okay.
And it's an easy thing to track. Hey, it's an easy thing to track. If I'll take you through a demo sometime. And when you look at the data in Data Studio, so Google Business Profile reporting is pretty weak. It's all like monthly snapshots or like the trailing quarter. To see the impact, you have to, not like everybody's going to do that, but we have an API with Google Business Profile where we bring that into Data Studio and then trend it over time. And so for a new service listing, you can see that thing come alive as far as searches, views, and actions, all that reporting data. And you can see as you add reviews, you can see like the activity grow, all at the same time, like your normal sales listing doesn't suffer, doesn't lose those, right? And more importantly, you begin winning more discovery search, they call it, which is non-branded, right? Oil change near me, brake repair near me, and your sales listing is not getting those search queries. So there's good data to back up the recommendation.
Well, it'd be really, that's great if you've got a dealership, an OEM dealership that actually has a department that works on non-like making models. My experience is working at an OEM dealership such as Mercedes, even if Toyota, worked at Honda. Unless you've got 1 or 2 people dedicated to working on other vehicles, it can be
from a recon perspective.
Correct. Technicians hate working on anything other than what they've spent all their money is in tools.
Well, this current market though, Jeff, a lot of
true
stores that
yep.
The non-Highline stores are having to carry a lot of off-brand stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I brought it up. It's dealerships could definitely be missing out if they don't have some type of solution around that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Question.
So George, you're a huge fan of GA4?
Well, I have to be.
Okay. All right.
I mean, it's the cheese has moved, and I as I say, I mourned for a couple of days, and then jumped out of the foxhole and said, let's fully immerse in this thing, and goodbye, Universal. Been nice knowing you. I mean, you don't really have a choice, right?
Nope. That's the way to do it, I guess.
And I think as many things in life, when you dive into that, you'll find that there'll be some things you don't like as much, and some things that are perhaps better. But if you're in that business, you really have no choice. And the more you dive into it, the more I think your stress goes down, because you're like, this is not going to be that challenging.
Yeah. One thing Google was working towards, and I have not kept up with it, was the offline conversion, and having that show up in Google Analytics. Is GA4, is there any improvements around that? I even, somewhere through this dealership, I've got some little beacon hanging. I forget where I stuck it. It was a Google beacon of some sort. I have no idea where it's at, but I remember signing that up. Yeah. And have they made any progress with that?
Only through Google Ads. I mean, the only time you're getting store visit reporting, I've not seen it flow through analytics, although that was the promise. And that was 5 years ago. That's right when I started the company.
It's been a while.
Those Google beacons were going around, and they were saying, turn on Google Signals, which was some kind of special hoop you had to jump through. You had to add some privacy language to your website, and then they would start showing that as a conversion, and they just never did. So who knows if they will. Maybe privacy, kept that from happening. I love location data. I wish the industry would roll out location for OTT, because OTT and programmatic are so hard to measure. But it just seems like location would be, hey Jeff, here's 20 people who viewed this ad were in your store last month. We know that, just using proximity. I've seen that with a few OTT providers, but none of the big players.
That would be nice. That would definitely be nice to have. I think, is Cars.com doing that with their new OTT?
I think they have the data. They can share it on occasion, but I think in some cases there's not enough data, and it may be misleading.
Yeah.
But Cars has played around, to their credit, with location data for a while. Their back end reporting used to show, I think they disabled it because it was some limitation, but it used to show the number of people who visited your dealership either on the Cars.com mobile app or on a mobile browser. And then if you drill down that reporting, it would show you what cars, it would show you what dealership they were at when they looked. And then it would also show you, it would show you which dealerships people shopped your store from, and show you maybe which stores we thought it was super insightful.
It was slick.
I think there was an accuracy challenge.
Well, especially when most dealerships aren't single points. There's always, small groups, or, you're part of an auto park. And, I've got Toyota dealership here 100 feet away, a Volvo dealership another 100 feet. So, I would get those reports and be like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Right.
Concept was great concept. If they could just get it a little bit more accurate, which I know the technology is there. The technology is there to get it that much more accurate. Matter of fact, I don't think we were going to have him on Refresh Friday, but I don't believe it ever materialized. And this gentleman had the ability to do this and was able to explain it, but was also, he didn't want to put all of his chickens in one basket, or eggs in one basket, chicken eggs, because he was in fear that something would crack down, and, a year from then it would no longer be feasible because of privacy
who is
issues. That? I will have to remember and get back with you. I do not remember.
Russ Gentry? Russ Gentry from M1.
That does sound familiar.
I don't know if you know Russ. He'd be a great guest to have on here as well. I mean, his company seems to understand and know proximity. He's been in that business for a lot of years, and I think they offer that as a B2B product in automotive, so that companies can use location data to attribute.
Mm-hmm.
You write his name down so we don't forget it again.
Yeah, he's a longtime veteran automotive guy. Super great guy.
Yeah, definitely know of him.
Yep.
You say it's Gentry, Gentry?
Gentry, yep. And I may get this wrong. I'm sorry, right? KBB Auto by Tel. I mean, I think he's been. I mean, he was with some of the big players back in the day and bounced around and started his own company. And,
yeah. I think he had started something called Smart Pix or Smart Pixel, and that may be what I was thinking about.
De-anonymizing website traffic.
Say again.
I think the first offering was something around de-anonymizing website traffic. So being able to say, hey, look, we can take 60% of the people who don't convert and tell you their first name, last name, email address.
I believe you're right.
Just don't give it to the sales team.
No, that's not one of the people who left dealer.com after the Cox acquisition has a business in doing this too. There might be another one we could talk to, Jeff.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to check into it more. Maybe we can get someone on the show and dive into it a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Well, George, you definitely had
has changed their world. So.
Okay. Well, you've had your hands full with all this, jumping over the GA4 for everybody and all your dealerships.
Well, I'm pioneering Google My Business as well.
Well, not only that, but
can you bring Google Plus back?
Yeah, Google Plus.
How's your plugin working out? That's
give
everybody just give everybody a quick rundown of GMB Spy. That's so cool.
Yeah, so if you use Chrome extensions, so extensions in Chrome are just little widgets you can add onto your Chrome browser. And there's some great ones out there for SEO and lots of different functions. But the GMB Spy allows you to go and look at any other Google Business Profile and see what their categories are. And even more importantly, you can do a search. You could do, Jeep brake repair near me or whatever that is. And then you could download a CSV file of the top 20 businesses that ranked and what all their categories were. So it allows you to easily harvest categories if you're setting up a new listing or if you're getting outranked by a competitor and you're like, what am I doing wrong? What are they doing right? But yeah, we're almost 16,000 weekly users. It just keeps growing, mainly outside the U.S. Yeah, it's mainly SEO, SEO folks and agency folks that use it. But yeah, it's it's
such
a free
story.
extension, so it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, you got. Totally I think I had messaged you a while back. It's like you got to figure out how to monetize that one way or another.
Well, it's got a donate button, and we've made it bigger. No, I'm just kidding. There's a donate button. I think
he's got 3 kids who's going to be in college, folks. Hit that button.
Yeah, that's another reason why you need to monetize that.
I've made enough to take him to Chipotle a couple times, I think.
Were you able to get the guacamole?
Yeah, I had a free app. They drive me crazy with the app. It was guac upgrade.
So I take it you probably use that on an everyday basis for your dealerships, don't you?
Yes, to go and see, especially for new ones, to go up and quickly make recommendations, and because a lot of stores don't. They'll either they'll put the same categories for both listings for sales and service, or they won't realize that there's 33 fixed ops categories for Google Business Profile, and you can only choose 10. So really be selective and curate those. But yeah, that's generally the exercise.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well,
thank you.
I'll drop some more information around that in the forum thread for today's show. Make sure if anyone's got any more questions around GMB Spy.
Yep.
So cool to see something just organically grow the way that has.
Yeah, it was a freaky, surprising thing, but it's allowed me to connect with a lot of folks in the SEO world. And I don't know if I consider myself an SEO expert, but it's having that app, I guess makes me part of it. So. Hey, also on GA4, we didn't talk about connecting Google Ads. It's also an easy flip to switch. Just ask the agency, hey, when you add this new code, please connect our AdWords or Google Ads account with GA4 also. So that's also an easy thing. Get that data flowing. Just get all the data flowing through.
Okay.
Those are easy setup things that they could do in the same pen stroke.
Good advice. Speaking of, so I'm sure Google has some instructions or some type of content resources around this, but I know you also,
which makes perfectly good sense and easy to read and not technical at all.
Exactly. So I know, George, you take the time to sort of put some of that stuff out in layman's words, and also something that can relate to the dealership world much easier. What information, what content do you have out there in relationship to GA4, and where can they find it? And also send it to me so I can get that over onto DealerRefresh to get you some more eyeballs as well.
Okay. Yeah. So I'd say LinkedIn is probably the best platform. That's where I consistently will post those. So if you go to LinkedIn and click on my profile and just look at the activity, you can just harvest, the last 2 weeks. I've tried to put something up a couple of times a week. And then there's a download. If you, there's a link on there where you can download this conversion process document.
Okay.
I need to update it because I added some additional stuff, but I'm working on some additional training guides, and I'll post highlights of those in the next several weeks. But I hope to have a lot of material finished 30 days from now. This should be able to help people.
Well, George, can you also give the viewers a little rundown on what Generations Digital does, and if they wish to get in touch to talk more, how could they do that?
Sure. So the basis of everything we do is educate and make dealers better consumers of digital marketing. We don't sell. We're not an agency. We don't get spiffs or resales or commissions or anything from agencies, but we do recommend vendors that we've seen work well. The underlying layer for everything we do is Data Studio Deck. So some dealers, especially larger dealer groups that have a team of digital marketing folks, but they're not great at analytics and they don't really want to sit and fool around with that. They just buy our deck. So they just get our Data Studio Deck. It includes not only Google Analytics, it's got the API with Google My Business, so they get all that, and there's some awesome reporting. And then we also dial into the back of all the third parties, Auto Trader, Car Gurus. We grab the SRPs, VDPs, leads, calls, chats, and then we put that in a big ROI page in Data Studio, so the dealers can quickly say, what's my cost per lead with Auto Trader versus Cars, and then compare that to the referral traffic. So it's pretty robust. But anyway, so they just buy that reporting. We also offer consulting. We're pretty busy now, so we're probably, I don't mean to say we chase off consulting customers, but that part of the business requires my time, and so that's more limited. But the reporting also includes some light consulting, and we do what's called a rundown every month. So we not only go through all the reporting, but you'll get like this 1 or 2 pager and say, this is out of standard, this is broke, this is, just so they can get some good actionable things, from the analytics. So
awesome.
And where can they get a hold of you?
Just Google my name.
Yep. Of course.
Should be like the first few. It's just the easiest way because Generations Digital is such a mouthful. But it should be the first couple choices.
And you can also jump over to Amazon. You've got 2 books over there, Digital Marketing Car Dealer's Guide to, and also Car Dealer's Guide to Google Business Profile. Awesome, man.
Yeah. So this is Digital Marketing for Dummies. So if you had like a general manager, a dealer owner who just wanted to learn digital, all the definitions, the acronyms, like, if they read this book, they'd be able to have a seat at the table and be like, okay, I'm starting to get this stuff. And then this one is just pure Google Business Profile. It's more like just a workbook to go through and get the job done. And both of these were completely redone with all new screenshots and stuff in January of this year. So they should be fresh.
I was going to say, you're working on your 2nd or 3rd edition of that you released, right?
Yep. So you have these kind of books, they can't be more than a year old, really. So.
Yep. Awesome. Well, George, as always, we really appreciate you coming on. And if anyone's got any questions around GA4, reach out to George. I know you're always more than more than willing to help anybody out that's got questions and concerns and all that good stuff. And also check out Generations Digital. I've sat through some of the trainings. You've done a great job putting all that stuff together. It's a great resource for dealerships, no doubt. So
thank you. And
Well,
thank
you
you
got
guys
it,
too. I
man.
mean, I sincerely mean it. I'm a big fan. I've used, I don't know, since you guys first launched the site, but easily 15 years I've been a DealerRefresh user and
Yeah.
fan. And even when I first started consulting, I mean, I got stumped a lot more than I get stumped today. And I would go there, and people like Ryan or others would help answer that. And so we try to turn dealers onto DealerRefresh as much as we can. Those forums are full of such valuable data. Anyway, so thank you.
you
17
gotta ask,
years.
what's your favorite Rush song? Comes from Jim K here.
Favorite Rush song? That's a tough one. Probably, I guess, Spirit of the Radio or Free Will or something off Permanent Waves or the older stuff. La Vila
What brought that
Shangiato.
up?
I don't know. It's just a question from the
I
audience.
karaoke Spirit of the Radio at one of the conferences, I think a couple years ago.
There we go.
It's probably a
Yeah,
stretch.
someone's got a good memory. All right, gentlemen. Well, everyone have a great week. And George, once again, thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you guys. You too.
All right. Take care.
Yeah.